What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and in this video I want to talk about how to fuse up to the A rank Overkilling machine early in Dragon Quest Monsters 3: The Dark Prince. Now this is an incredibly potent monster. It's arguably one of the best attackers in the game because of the traits it has available. You can make this before you've even visited all the circles with a little bit of due diligence, and it's an incredibly potent monster. This thing can easily carry you through the entire game if you want to put the time in to get it. It also has two tiers that are above it, but I don't actually like those more than this because of the traits this one has available, but we're also going to be discussing that more in depth in just a second here. So to start, what makes the Overkilling machine so desirable? Well, the talents are awesome, but more importantly, it's the traits. Now, the traits in particular we're going to be focusing on are the traits it has when it is a small version. Crafting large monsters is a whole different ballgame and it takes a ton of time, so I wouldn't technically worry about it. But to take a look at the traits here, we have Tactical Trooper, which basically in exchange for a small attribute loss, we're going to be able to take 2 actions per turn. And this isn't just attack, it's actions, meaning that we could do double Blight Splitter or double Parallax or double Sword Dance or whatever the case is, making it a super strong hitter on the battlefield. And while Ultra Crafty Zapper, that's going to be nice, the bigger thing here is Metal Medley. Now, whether or not you've ever played a DQM game, late game metal slimes and golden slimes tend to be quite common, especially in the online scene, and these are monsters that have insane defenses. Typically an attack that would do like 100 damage to someone in your party, it's going to hit a metal slime for like 10. And because of that, having a monster that has the ability to cut through the metal skin trait is super desirable, and that is going to be where our Overkilling machine comes in. Now, taking a look at him compared to his two brothers, I'm going to pull up a display capture here. This is the Japanese wiki for the site. I'm also going to have this in the description of the video in the second line. There's not a lot of English resources for this game, which is why I wanted to put this video out. But to talk about the two alternatives, we can bump him up into this version, or we can bump him up into an S tier version. Now, the main reason I don't really think that's worth going up to is going up to his other version here, we're going to lose access to the Metal Cutter perk, and instead we get a perk where below half health we get an attack boost, which for generalist play that's probably going to be fine, but if you encounter metal slime you're going to be like, damn, I wish I still had the ability to cut through metal. And going up to the third tier, we lose access to the double attack and the Metal Cutter in exchange for some auto buffing, which can be nice. We get auto bounce as well as auto attack boost and auto defensive boost with the S rank tier, but we're losing out on the 1-2 attack and the Metal Cutter. We get the 1-2 attack if we go up to large with it, but then we're taking up 2 monster slots in our party. Additionally, just looking at the base stats for those monsters, the Overkilling machine is going to have a couple stats that are going to come out more in our favor. It's going to have a higher overall attack, it's going to have higher overall MP. So that means we're going to be hitting harder and we're going to be able to use our abilities more often compared to the 2 upgrades from this, which is why this is widely considered to be one of the most superior choices, at least in this tier of machine attackers. So with that all being said, let's talk about how we make the Overkilling machine. Now, this actually isn't going to be too bad to ramp up to. Hopping on over, we'll pull up the monster tree. You can see we're going to need a Metal Hunter, we're going to need the 6-arm skeleton, we're going to need the Advanced Magician, and we're going to need the Mole. And what we're going to do is break down those on the list over here and talk about how you get each of these and some zones where you're going to get them. Now, the first one I want to talk about, I'm just going to pull up each of these main types that we need to ramp up to in their own little tabs, and we will look at them. And the very first one that we're going to, let me just get all these primed up and ready to go. There we go. So first up, let's talk about the Metal Hunter. And this is going to be probably the longest part that you're going to have to build up to. We have a pretty long chain to get up to this guy, but we can do this early on. Now, the Karakuri egg, we can capture that one pretty early on, but very early in the game, your better bet is just going to be fusing it. Now, there are a lot of different material monsters that are going to be used, so we are going to go into the Monsterpedia here. I'm going to filter this out by just material types and talk about some of the early ones we can get access to. So in the second zone of the game, the lava zone, we can get these little dudes. They're going to be all over the place. We can also find the Bongo Drongos up in the north part of the zone. And then while I don't have one, we can also find Foo Dogs in the zone, which are these furry lion looking things. Especially in winter, a lot of those are going to come out. That's going to be your biggest resource of material based monsters early on. Just to show this, if I go over to Rose Hill Tower in this area, we'll pop on out. And the main reason I'm pointing them out is because we're going to need a material monster to get our egg. We're going to need one to get the bag of jokes over here. We're going to need one to get the slime tower. So getting a bunch of material monsters early on is going to be the most arduous part of this process. But thankfully, just here in the Circle of Temper, we can find a bunch of these guys. So especially if it's in winter, there's a food dog right there. We can just, I don't need to waste time capturing this stuff at all. I'll save time on the video. But so food dogs are going to be right there. If you've already cleared the lava, you can go this way to cross and get over to the Bongo Drongo guys. But you're also going to find lamp wicks over at the left side of the zone near Draggle Nook. You'll find a bunch of the lamp guys. And then as we get closer to the Caverns of Conflagration, we'll see more of them as well. So you can see just food dogs all over the place. These are all just fantastic material type monster fodder to help us fuse that stuff up. Going on over here, we should find some of our lamp wicks in just a second once we get over to our... Look, there's a drummer with 4 lamp wicks with them. So tons and tons and tons of material monsters that we're going to be able to get access to early. And so just looking at those, the shield demon, we can find those in the... Actually, this is the 3rd area of the game. Well, anyway, 2nd area of the game, the it's called Purgatory Pass here. But just looking at, let me hop on over. Circle of Conquest. Hopping over to Circle of Conquest, we're going to be able to find the shield enemies in the spring and the summer seasons. And then getting a shield enemy, combining a slime with 1 material type, that's going to make us the Stringy Boy. Combining the Stringy Boy with an egg, which we'll get from any magic beast and any material type if one is considered G rank, and we can warp that up to a Bambooligan. And right here, you're going to be able to find quite a few enemies that we're going to need. You'll be able, I mean, right now it's winter, so we're not going to see them, but you can get the shield enemies here. You can also get the skeletons here that we're going to need a little bit later in the fusion process. Looking over here, Slime Tower is going to be any slime and any F-type material. As for the F-type materials, I think one of them, I think we have a couple different F-type materials. Let me go to our Monsterpedia real fast. We'll sort back out. I want to say food. I think food dog might actually be an F-type. Let me confirm though. Of course, I don't have a food dog on me. I think he might be considered F-type though. Yeah, so Bongo Dravo's F-type. So we can use him with a slime to make a slime tower. Slime tower and shield bro together is going to make a slime knight. And then Slime Knight and Bambooligan is going to get us access to the Wandering Armor. Now, the Wandering Armor is going to be probably one of the most arduous parts of this process. If you have access to the DLC, where you can go back into the cave to capture monsters, you'll be able to just recapture Wandering Armor there, which is definitely going to make this significantly easier to do. I'm trying to get over to him so we can show off the Wandering Armor. Obviously seeing some later game monsters here, but if you're looking at a video on how to build, you probably expect spoilers. So Restless Armor in the English translation. And if you have unlocked all of the various circles, we can actually find him in the 2nd to last circle, so you can just straight recruit this guy. But combining him with the material will get us our Metal Hunter, and that is going to be 1 piece that we need of the puzzle. Hopping over from there, we're going to need access to Big Skeleton Man. Really cool monster, and this one's actually pretty easy to make, but is also going to tie very heavily into the metal armor. Now, the basic way to make him is going to be combining a metal armor with the skeletons that we can find in this zone that we're in right now. There's none out right now. There should be some if I go towards the top of the map. But basically, combining a Wandering Armor with a skeleton is going to make a skeleton soldier, and then combining 2 skeleton soldiers is going to give us access to the higher tier skeleton. So if you already have access to the DLC where you can go and just capture Wandering Armors, that's going to seriously save you a ton of time. If you don't have access to that, you may want to wait until you've unlocked the Circle of Fortitude, just because you will be able to just capture the Restless Armors here, and that's going to save you a lot of time on having to farm up multiple Restless Armors. But once you get that, man, Restless Armor, skeleton, creates the skeleton soldier, 2 skeleton soldiers, and we have our multi-arm skeleton. Hopping over to the other part of the tree, we have to get our Baby Magician. Now, the Baby Magician is going to be another one that's actually pretty easy to put together. There's a couple things that we can get here. The regular Baby Magician, we're going to be able to find this right in the cave. over in the Caverns of Conflagration. So as soon as you unlock that, you can just go there and recruit the baby magician. And then besides that, we can also use that early material guy and combine that with a pixie. Pixie is from any slime and devil. If either is G-type, you can make a pixie. And combining those gets the higher tier pixie. Higher tier pixie along with baby magician is going to make the regular imp magician. Knocking that out. And then we got to build our way up to Mr. Mole. Now, Mr. Mole is going to take a little more time. We're going to have to go back and farm a couple different things here. But we need to get access to the Dream Beast. Dream Beast we can get access by combining a material type and a demonic beast. We can combine that with a rabbit, which we can find in the starter zone. That'll give us access to the higher tier rabbit. As for the early wild slime, this is just going to come from a slime and an ant bear. Both are super easy monsters to grab that we can be caught early. We fuse our bigger rabbit with that slime together, and we get a wild slime, a little slime that has a mohawk here. Besides that, we're going to take the same early rabbit, fuse that up with any devil type. We can catch this in the starter zone, and that's going to give us access to the robber rabbit. Combine that with the slime fang to get access to the higher robber rabbit, and then we combine that with any of the mischievous moles. We can find these in the first area of the game. We can find them in the area we were just at where all the food dogs were. And that is going to get us access to the killer mole right there. And then with that, we have access to the 4 main puzzle pieces that we need to create our overkilling machine. And like I said, once you get access to this guy, you are pretty much set. Now, lastly, I want to talk about traits a little bit, or talent points. In terms of things that you should look to fuse up while you're making him, his maniac tier is going to be incredibly strong. The type of attacks we get here is going to be nutty, damages all enemies, highly effective if they're poisoned, or severely poisoned or paralyzed. We have a heavy slashing attack that can paralyze. We have a bunch of different multi-attacks that are going to go out, different multi-damage type attacks. The duelist tree can be pretty good because we can get Giga Slash here. And keep in mind that he already has a trait that's going to boost the damage of his electrical attacks. So having access to Giga Slash, that's going to inflict outrageous electrical damage to all enemies. The higher the user's level, the greater the damage that will be inflicted. This is going to be a super, super potent attack for him to have. And then lastly, I just went for straight attack boost on it. You know, this guy is going to be a dedicated attacker. I want to bolster his attack up as high as possible. And that's exactly what we're going to be able to do. This is super easy to get. Just attack boost, fuse those two together, get attack boost 2, and then just keep pumping your stats into that as it carries over. And doing all that, and you will have yourself your very own overkilling machine, which will basically just carry you through the game. Once you get this thing, it is going to shred. Now, whether you level it beyond this, that's going to be up to you. I will say from an aesthetic standpoint, I do like the other A tier form. It gets like legs and 2 giant scimitar swords, but it loses the ability to cut metal slimes. So keep that in mind. If you're going to go into online play, I wouldn't suggest that at all, because you're going to come up against the metal slime and be like, and I'm screwed. But if you're just focused on story, you know, aesthetic wise, I do think it looks better, but obviously that's just personal preference. But either way, that is how you get your very own overkilling machine. One of the best attackers in the game, and obviously one that we can make super early, which is quite advantageous. Now, I don't plan on doing videos like this for every monster, but certain monsters that I have found super, super powerful, I do plan on putting this out because, as I said, there's not a lot of English resources surrounding this game. So up next, we're going to cover how to make your own Lionheart, which is considered to be one of the best healers in the game. So make sure to stay tuned for that, and I'll catch you next time with more monster making madness.